Hello there, welcome back to an extra show, a special show. I'm shooting this different time than normal, so I just thought I'd do this. Something I've been thinking about for the last week, because Criterion's kind of announced they're doing 4K. Like Citizen Kane, Red Shoes, a bunch of other films, The Piano, Mulholland Drive, 4K. No, because I actually have 4K. You can see some 4Ks behind me. So I like 4K. It's not necessary, but it's nice. That's the thing with 4K is you don't need it, but it is nice. It's a luxury thing. It's Blu-ray is perfectly good, but if like me use a projector, it's nice to have in 4K because you can project it. Even if you put it for a 1080p projector, the 4K comes across much better, and it just looks better. So 4K just looks nicer, and TV on a 4K TV it looks nicer as well. More details. The brights are stronger. You feel a bit more immersive in the film. So it's just a nicer image. But if you've got a 4K player and you're playing on a TV, 4K TV, you know, if you're using a Blu-ray, it upscales it to a really nice image as well. It upscales DVDs to a nice image too. So it's not like it's a big problem if you don't have 4K. I mean, again, Blu-ray's fine. So, most of the films I watch still are in Blu-ray, so it's not like and there's a lot of films out that aren't great in 4K. That's the big problem with 4K at the moment, is the technology's there, it's getting the transfers of good films out now, because you've got the kind of trash ones. There's some really good ones out, like 2001, you know, or The Shining. Things like that have had their transfers, and they look gorgeous. I'm really looking forward to the Red Shoes. It looks like it could be gorgeous too. Because it always looks gorgeous no matter where it is. But for my list for what I'd like for Criterion, I've tried to avoid repeating stuff. Also, I'm hoping Criterion does well, because Arrow's been doing pretty good, I think, with the 4Ks. I'm hoping that will encourage Eureka and other places to start doing it too. Because you can imagine some really good films we've got in the library, if you get them to 4K, it would look even better. But a lot of the videos I've seen so far, which one of the reasons why I didn't want to jump ahead and do it straight away as soon as I announced 4K was, I knew you'd get lists like this, but also knew people would actually go back and talk about more or less what's available and what could upgrade to 4K. I wanted to allow them to do those first and pass through those ones. Because it is a valid thing, what's there in the library, which is a 4K that is cool, you'd like to see. But I think with the complaints I have about Arrow, you're releasing all those Argento films in 4K. Can't you release some good films on their own that's not 4K? What's the matter? Come on. We want something better. So, that's the problem. So I've tried to avoid having stuff that Criterion's done. I'm trying to avoid all that with this list. So I just thought, they've done some of these films. I'm not sure they've done them recently. I'm sure sometimes they've done them way in the past, but the licenses have dropped and they haven't come back up. Sometimes Criterion bring them back. I mean, recently they released Crash, which they had for a while. The license dropped. Then they got the license again. They've actually used their extras in the past, as well as new extras to create a new release. So the Criterion keeps hold of their extras, and sometimes they'll loan it out to different places or like license it out to make some cash off it. I mean, there's been releases of things like Thin Red Line was released in Criterion in the US, but we got it in Fox in Britain because that was the original release place. We got all the extras from that one on the Fox disc. So things like that happens well with Criterion. So, but this is me going through what I think they should. This is my wish list, but it's also I'm throwing in stuff that they probably will never do because it's more fun that way. So it's a bit wild at times. So I'm trying to have a bit of fun with it. This is not the most serious list. That's what I'm trying to say. Really, it's not serious, but it is. It's kind of a bit of both, really. But I'm trying to avoid having the kind of more obvious ones because it's been done already. People are really enthusiastic. Oh, this can be in 4K, that can be in 4K. So I have a lot of enthusiasm. It's not like these are cynical videos. These are like, oh, I want to see this in 4K. I want this to upgrade. I just don't think they're going to upgrade stuff like the Before Sunrise box set or the Kieslowski stuff box set straight away. They might do in the future, but since these films have been, I think they'd have to have been released for a long time before they do the upgrade. I think any recent release, like the Bergman set, they're just going to annoy their fans, because just, again, look what happened with Arrow. They annoyed everybody, and a lot of these Argento movies have been out for years before they got their upgrade. It's still like, you try to sell the same film, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I don't really care. Like, for those ones, I'm just buying them on streaming, because I'm not going to pay a fortune for them, because I already got good copies. But, anyway, to the list. The first one I would say is A Bittersweet Life, made by very good 4K. It looks gorgeous in Blu-ray. It would look even better in 4K. It's one of those ones I think would look really good. One of the good things about Criterion is doing Dolby Vision. Dolby Vision is the nicest 4K process. It just looks nicer. The colours are better. For me at least, the colours are nicer. The spread of the image and the shading seems a bit more subtle and a bit more, just more beautiful, and it tends to enhance cinematography, I find. I think HDR is a bit colder image, which I'm less keen on, but it depends on your taste. But I think a lot of people think Dolby Vision's better, it brings it more. But this is still the early days of 4K. Before we go into 8K. Right. So yeah, Bittersweet Life, it's a great film. Done a review on it, so I'm not going to yab on about it. Just, this will be like very good 4K, because it's a beautiful film and there's lots of great colour schemes in it, and the print that could be enhanced. The next one was Salo, which, just to annoy lots of people, I would say do that one straight away. You could see the shit in 4K, which is really just chocolate. You know, all of that depravity in 4K. I couldn't resist putting Salo on the list. It just seems so obvious to be annoying. So, yeah. So that's that one. Okay, there's Qui-Gon, which has been on Criterion. It's been on Massive Cinema. But it's an obvious one to have in 4K because the colours are so good. But the first thing was, it wasn't released that recent. It was released very recently. So it probably won't be upgraded for well. But it's a shame because it really is the one of those titles. It's like, it looks beautiful. It could really do with a 4K upgrade. It's just a colourful film that you really need in 4K. Sort of like Peeping Tom or The Red Shoes. The colour scheme's so good you want to have it in the best colour scheme possible. The other one is House. It's another one you think it's a really colourful film. It would look great in 4K, especially with all the kind of weird effects and the knowing use of like old school effects and stuff. So it's comic booky and it would be really fun. Like any kind of comic booky kind of film always looks quite interesting in 4K. So it's like, it would look really good. You know, it would be really enjoyable. I would go for Audition from Takeshi Miike for all the gore, but also the setup as well. I mean, I choose that one because it's not one of Miike's most excessive visual films, but it is very subtle for a long time, and then it just goes to the gore. So you've got the extremes of both palettes, the kind of more subdued palettes and then the extreme palette. I just think that would be a good one in 4K. It'd really deliver what you'd want in a 4K image. It's very, very nice, you know. Again, it feels like it has been out for a long time, and it hasn't been a release of Audition for a while. It feels like, and it feels like this is the one you could actually Audition's one you could actually put in 4K. And I think it would be more of a punt because I said before that there's a kind of immersive quality in 4K that you're a bit more distance in Blu-ray. At least I feel that way. Just the colour schemes just gets a bit more intensely intrigued by the image. The next one I would go for is An Elephant Sitting Still, which is not the most visually arresting film on the surface, but it actually it's a really good sense of depth throughout the film, and a depth of what is a very working class, everyday locations in China. I think it would look really good for all the details if you got it in 4K and get all the details out of it. It wouldn't be the big splashy image, but I think it would be a really interesting film to see. delivered in that format, I think you'd get some really interesting imagery there that it's already there in the film, but I think it would actually just make it more intense. And I mean, I just feel that one would look really good upgraded. I just think the weird mix of reality and non-reality and the weird shift in the mood would really work for 4K in that one. That's just that's my opinion anyway, but we shall see. I don't think it's going to happen for a long time. Plus, I want a 4K. I've got it streaming. I want a decent disc version. So it's a selfish thing. I'd like to see that in 4K. And they could actually have a special features like, did the producers drive the director to suicide? That would be an amazing extra. Okay, now we're going to the what I call the Rock Armageddon format thing, where in the late 90s, to make money, Criterion put out the Rock and Armageddon on Criterion as a listing, and everyone was like, what the hell are you doing? These are not Criterion films. I mean, Criterion does do films that are a bit more popular and maybe noirish or different from, that aren't always the most respectful ones. They did a Godzilla box set, but these are historical films that have relevance throughout time, so they're worth being in the Criterion collection. They're more pulpy, but there was something to them. But then they did Armageddon, and it was like, well, there's nothing there to really promote. So, I mean, it's good to do something like RoboCop was nice, but I would say, do Predator. Predator is one of the most rewatchable films. It's just so enjoyable, and it is bizarrely influential on a lot of directors in like the mainstream cinema. Tiernan is like an underrated director of someone who influenced so much of what followed. Really, he's a highly influential director, and I think he deserves more credit. And the first Predator is so well made, it's so well crafted. It actually should be in Criterion. It might not be the classiest film, but if you're going to do a thing of saying we're going to look at some of the influential pulp stuff, you should do Predator. Predator is one of the ones that have lasted. They've done so many sequels, and none of them have lived up to this one. There's something about the filmmaking in this one. So if you're going to go to commercialism sometimes, do it right. Go for Predator. And if while we are there, do Big Trouble in Little China, because it's a lot of fun, and every series collection needs a silly movie once in a while, and that's Big Trouble in Little China, one of the classiest kung fu comedies ever. And I think it would bring a smile to everyone's face, almost as much as the Godzilla box set. I think it's something, a lot of that silliness actually would help, because it is a classic film that everyone loves, but it's also really, really silly. It's in the Buster Keaton cameraman type of stable of, it's so much fun, but it's not respectable. So I'd say put that one in there just to give us something different. Right. Now I'm going to go to Brian De Palma when I say, let's see Phantom of the Paradise in Criterion 4K. Let's see it in Criterion. It needs to be in Criterion. This is the most satirical, influential film ever about the pop industry. This takes a big pop industry of the 70s, and it basically covers everything that followed, because it's still relevant today for all the jokes it's making about the pop industry. Everything still holds, and or just entertainment industry. This is a really good film that really deserves a bit more respect, and maybe it's a licensing thing, but it's one of those films that should be in Criterion. It is really funny, the songs are great, it deserves the respect of a Criterion release. I mean, Arrow did a really good release a while ago, but it deserves to have a Criterion. It really deserves that kind of big. I mean, they've done some De Palma films, Blowout and Dress to Kill. I think it's time to let's see Phantom of the Paradise. Okay, now I'm going to go to Sono, and I suggest two films from him. And again, this is the joy of cinema, which is Why Don't You Play in Hell and Tokyo Tribe. Now, Why Don't You Play in Hell is one of the most enjoyable, loving tributes to cinema, and a wonderful look at cinema violence and the silliness of it, and the craziness of it, and the childishness of it. And the end is beautiful. And this film's always overpriced everywhere. People getting ripped off all over the place trying to get this film. Put it in a decent copy, 4K it, and let people actually buy it and see it. Because this is a film that needs to be seen by everybody. Criterion releasing this film actually would help its reputation, which anyone who sees the film knows is great, but most people haven't seen it, and it needs to be seen. So Criterion, get off your asses and get this one on, because this one deserves Criterion. For anything else I found on this list, this one deserves Criterion. And Tokyo Tribe was another wonderfully silly film. So again, like Phantom of the Paradise, it's a musical. It's a silly musical. It's a director having a lot of fun. It's more lightweight than Phantom of the Paradise, but it's so enjoyable, so silly, so outrageous. It's so much in love with filmmaking. It doesn't matter if it's, it's not perfect. It's in love with its own imperfections. It's not trying to be perfect. And it should bring Criterion. Because this is the kind of film you should be promoting. This kind of wonderfully messy, weird film that invigorates the film-going audience. Not every film has to be Citizen Kane. Sometimes Criterion should do these silly, interesting films that might not look respectable, but actually are very important for cinema. And I think it's something Criterion have been lacking. Because I think sometimes they go for good films, great films, but then they go for respectable films, and they've been doing some John Waters films. I think they could be doing more. Let's see on Sono. I think he deserves some more love as well, along with John Waters, And since we're talking about John Waters, release Pecker on Criterion. It has no reason for being on Criterion, which is why I should be on Criterion, because I really like that film. That's just gratuitous. It's not actually on my list. I just thought I'd add it while I was here. And Pink Flamingos, while we're at it too. Another one that wasn't on my list, but what the hell. Now we go to Tsukamoto, and I would suggest Vital and Gemini. Gemini is a beautiful film. It's wonderful. It's one of Tsukamoto's most beautiful films. It's perfect. Most people who have seen it think it's amazing. Again, it gets absolutely no love from anybody. Criterion should be putting this one out and using their influence to actually promote it and say, this is a stunning film, this is a masterpiece, because Tsukamoto is one of the great masters of cinema at the moment, and not enough people know that. And Vital is his masterpiece. This is a film with grief. It's a film about how do you cope with grief. And again, it's getting no respect. I had to watch it in a crappy DVD copy. I always put it out in America in a box set, but it's hard to get hold of still. So a lot of his films are hard to get hold of. Third Window and Britain are doing well, but really, if you're going to do, Criterion should be putting his films out. And 4K for this would be great, because there's a great colour scheme jumping between past and present. And it's just a wonderful film. And these are two of his most visually interesting films, and the two of his most emotional films. Both should be on 4K, and both should be in Criterion. So there. Right. Now I'm going for two Cronenbergs. I'm going for Spider and Dead Ringers. Spider is still on DVD, that's how bad it is. And Dead Ringers is now getting a release. It's got a release from America, from Shout Factory. But, and I've got an Australian version, which is decent. And there's a terrible British version. But these are the Blu-rays. And it needs a 4K, all the reds, all the blues. I mean, there's a colour scheme in this film where a lot of time the colour's drained from it, and it's very white and blues, and then suddenly the red comes in. This is a film that really needs it to pop visually like a Paul Pressburger film in certain sequences. You don't get that. And again, Spider is like, why don't you, it's like an Infant City Still, where it's a very kind of normal neighbourhood. It's very subtle. It's not very show-off in his visuals, but the details are all terrific. And I think 4K can bring up the details and the shadows, and it would be beautiful. Again, it should be in 4K by now, but it's not. Get on it. So, that's that one. I'm getting through these now. I've got a little list, you know. See how fast you are looking. This is a personal one, Animal Factory, which has been released on Arrow and no one bought it. It was barely released in Britain and America. Like HBO helped finance it. Steve Buscemi directed it. It's based on an Edward Bunker novel. Stars Willem Dafoe and Edward Furlong. That guy going to prison, how he's surviving prison. Everything about it is I've seen this before, but all the details are great in this film. This is one of those underrated films. I heard about it because Time Out raved about it, and I watched it. Like, this is stunning. I saw this in the cinema. When it was 3 days it played in the cinema. This is a wonderful film, and it needs a proper restoration. I mean, Arrow gave it a good restoration, but it needs... And it, again, like Spider, it's not the most visually arresting film, but all the details are good, and it shows the prison as being these little rooms, people stuck in these little rooms, rather than this big cinematic thing. This is these people stuck in these little rooms with this old machinery and old stuff, and it's a place you would never want to go, because a lot of times prison movies try and make everything look cool. And this film is like, nope, nothing of this stuff's cool. That's why they're so angry half the time. It's all tacky and horrible. So, there's that. Okay, I'm trying to see. I think I'm now down to the box sets of the directors that deserve box sets. Bresson. There's so many good films with Bresson. Where's the damn box set? Your move. Criterion. There's so many ones from the 70s, like on Femme Deuce, who have been barely released. If you have Criterion, this should be your prime focus, is getting Lancelot de Lac and Femme Deuce, Four Nights of a Dreamer, all this stuff, all these masterpieces put on, been remastered, restored, and put on Criterion, but especially in 4K, so you can get all the details of the film. There's no excuse not to be doing that, not to be putting resources into this. I mean, I'm sure there's some rights issues, but I'm sure they can be cleared up pretty quick. I mean, it's hard to get... you have to get Large on DVD, Lancelot de Lac on DVD, that so many of them are not even on Blu-ray. So you might as well just restore them and put them up in 4K and get them as good as possible. I mean, some of these films you have to get looking basically dodgy DVDs, and they're basically VHS copies. This is one of the great directors of all time, and that's what we're getting. That's ridiculous. Right. Next is Buñuel. Again, what the hell? I mean, there's some... I've got a box set of his on Blu-ray, which is good, but there should be a lot more. There's been a lot of films. There should be a lot more of his films on Criterion as a box set. They should just do a box set we did Bergman. I mean, Bresson and Buñuel both, you should have the Bergman box sets for these directors. It is worth the time to do it. Because, I mean, Buñuel's got so many films. And so many great films. So you actually get a chance to see Sam in the Desert properly. Or Nazarene, which is what my channel's called after. You can get that in DVD. There's lots of his Mexican films you can get in DVD. And it's very hard to find them any other way. So, Buñuel, you can get some of his later films, his European films, on Blu-ray. And you can get his really other films on Blu-ray. But the stuff in between is a mess of, like, nah, we're not going to bother. Elle, it's a wonderful film. I've got that in a cheap DVD somewhere, and it's hard to get hold of. I mean, again, this is a disgrace that he's not in Blu-ray. But he should be in 4K. He should be one of the first ones. And again, do a box set. Obviously, this is all going to happen. Okay, and since I'm on this, what about an Uzu box set? I'm pretty sure you could get most of these, and you can restore them the way you did with Bergman. I mean, Uzu is another one. It's like, just for remastering purposes and keeping this stuff available for future generations. Uzu, again, with Bresson and Buñuel, these are a must. These are the greats. There's no excuse not to be doing this by now. You shouldn't be trying to find a lot of Ozu films on, like, the cheapest things available. I mean, it seems Ozu is getting good stuff from BFI. BFI is the ones that are doing it, but I think we could actually do more. do a massive box set. I've got quite a lot of his in Blu-ray. I'm hoping for more, but it's hard to find. So, and a lot of this stuff is even BFI can only remaster them on DVD, and it's like it's not good enough. We need really good quality remasters of these films. So that's that one. Now I'm going to go to a few other ones. Chris Marker. All of his short films. They shouldn't be that difficult to remaster and put out. There was a box set. Of course, the box set only had about one disc of Blu-ray and the rest were on DVD. That's how. I'm one of the great directors, and that's what they would do with him. So I think Criterion should step in. They've done Sansa, Lille, and La Jetée, two of his most famous films, and remastered them for Blu-ray. But I think you could remaster them all, just do them 4K, and just have this collection of Chris Marker stuff. I mean, The Owl's Legacy is only on DVD from Icarus. And again, that's not good. Peter Watkins, another director, should be getting stuff on Criterion. I covered a few of these when I was on the underrated directors and Hus and Dion's podcast. But I might as well just plug for them again to say, have them in Criterion, but especially, have them in 4K, but even nicer. Because, some of the Watkins stuff especially is very nice visually. He really puts effort in, and he knows where he's put the camera, he's always moved in interesting ways, and nobody's interested. But since I'm over in the European directors and British directors, Alex Cox, whose most of his films are on DVD. You can't even get most of them in Blu-ray. You can get Sid and Nancy and Repo Man. That's it. Stuff like The Three Businessmen, Highway Patrolman, Definite Compass, DVD. That's all you get them on. He should be on Criterion. Criterion should be protecting directors like this and actually putting the stuff out. And if Criterion can do that, the 4K capabilities, do a full restoration. Cox all the way up to the late 90s was doing some really interesting stuff, and I think even some of the stuff after that is interesting. I'm not sure if Criterion would touch it, but there's a lot of stuff, his early stuff is really good, and could make for some really fascinating remasters. But they're all on DVD, and it's like, well, why is so many great directors on DVD? That's it. So I'm just looking here at my list, see if there's anything I've missed. Yes, Ray Harryhausen. Just do Ray Harryhausen. Do a full box set. We've had Indicators did a lot of them, so they've been remastered. A lot of them are from Columbia. They'd be easy enough to get the prints and just upgrade them and have a proper remaster. The Harryhausen stuff would look great in 4K. Just by watching it in DVD and Blu-ray, and when you upscaled, it looks gorgeous. So a proper 4K would look even better. Again, this is our history. They should be getting restored. I'm sure they'll get upgraded eventually, but I'm hoping it'd be nice if Criterion would acknowledge it with Harryhausen as well. So I think he should get something. And finally, one thing that will never happen, so I'm going to put in the video anyway, some Hammer movies. There's some really wonderful Hammer movies, some of the early Draculas, some of the early Frankenstein, some of the weirder films, the Demons of the Mind, Plague of the Zombies. There's lots of really good Hammer films they could put out, as a little collection of the best of Hammer. You don't have to do them all because there's a lot of trash that you don't want to touch, but there's a lot of good stuff too. And you could do a little selection of the best of Hammer on 4K, because some of the early stuff had some great cinematography and they look really nice. They're very fairy tale like Brides of Dracula has a very fairy tale like feel to it, or Kiss the Vampire. It would be acknowledging some of the monster movies and some of the stuff those monster movies were and how important they were. That would be really nice. So I avoided looking at the back catalogue. I actually completely ignored that, and I just went straight for the what they haven't done, because I think that's more interesting and more important, what you've not done, because that's what you're always looking for Criterion, Eureka, BFI. What have you not put out that we want to see. Like, that's always more fun because you're always looking for the release days and seeing what they're going to have. So I hope you enjoyed this list. Some of it's silly, some of it's not. I just thought we'd have a bit of fun. And remember, just to upgrade to 4K, especially if you're the haters like Dion who say they'll never do it. You'll cave. You'll cave and you know it. But yeah, but it's a fun video anyway. So I hope you enjoyed it. So this is both a video of these should be in Criterion and put them in 4K too while you're at it. It's that kind of video. So I hope you enjoyed it. And it's a little extra. I'll be back next week with some more videos. But that's me for now. Right, bye.